straight up, I'm a little confused. This is a Presbyterian church, and all of you are Baptists in the back. What's going on? I'm Baptist. Excuse me? Yeah, it's, I kept thinking everybody kept staying at the back, and I was like, yeah, that's a Baptist thing, not a Presbyterian. Maybe it is a Presbyterian thing, I don't know. I grew up Baptist, so that's all I know. So thank you so much for being here today. It's such a pleasure to have this space, to have this time with you guys, and I hope that there will be something you'll take away, a nugget here and there that'll be helpful to you, and that is our desire today as we talk and we explore mental health. So what I'm going to talk about is relationships and how the relationships that we have in our life impact our mental health. There we go. So we're going to talk about families. Yeah, that can be kind of crazy, huh? For some of us, yeah. Friendships, romantic partnerships, and then professional connections. So we're going to look at each one of those. There's many, many more connections, and we'll talk about a little bit about that too, but this is kind of where we're going to go. So what we're really wanting to explore is the impact of supportive relationships in our life. So what are supportive relationships? Because as a counselor, when I have my clients and they're going to work on something really hard, I always want to know what their support system looks like. Okay, who's going to help you through whatever we're doing, whatever kind of work we're going to do? Because they're going to sit in front of me possibly for 50 minutes this week, but they're going to be around a lot of other people. And who are those supportive people that are going to help them, and what does that look like? So in supportive relationships, we want it where each person actively contributes to the other person's well-being and their personal growth. And we also want it to be safe, number one, because you're not going to share anything unless you feel safe, right? It has to be a safe relationship. You have to feel understood. And of course, you want to be valued. And that's an important piece as well. So if you've ever taken a psychology class anywhere in your life, you've probably heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit about that because we know that at the very bottom are our physiological needs, which are probably for most of us not an issue. Air, water, those kinds of things that we have. Second is our personal safety needs. So do we feel safe where we live? Do we have secure employment? Are we able to pay our bills? Those kinds of things. And so that's that safety net there. And next becomes the most important there is love and belonging. We all want to have the sense of belonging somewhere, belonging to someone, belonging a part of a group, whatever that may look like. And so we're going to spend some time talking about belonging and how it impacts us both emotionally, psychologically, and socially. It helps us develop our self-image. We all want to have that sense of belonging in some sort of way, whether it's in a family, in a friendship group, as we're going to talk about. So we all know none of us missed the pandemic, right? We've all lived through the pandemic. And what we know is during that time, what happened? We didn't work anymore. We didn't go to work. We worked from home. Probably most of us never dreamed we could work from home, right? As a therapist, I never dreamed that I could do therapy on a computer. I mean, people were doing it, but it wasn't well known at that time. We didn't go to church. We went to church online, right? We didn't gather at church anymore. We didn't go, even our families didn't get together, right? Christmases were pared down. All the holidays, birthdays, we didn't go to ball games. We didn't do anything. We were all just at home. And that's hard. What does that create for us? Isolation. It creates us spending a lot of time by ourselves or maybe just with one or two other people. So what we know that you can see here, the two most diagnosed mental health disorders are anxiety and depression. So what do you think escalated during the pandemic? Anxiety and depression. Why? Because we were so isolated. We weren't with our friends. We weren't able to gather in any form or fashion. And so that became very impactful to our well-being. We saw these numbers rise. They were already at the top, but we saw them get even greater because of the fact that we weren't interacting with each other. We were staying at home. We were working in our pajamas. Okay, right? At least from the waist down. At least from the waist down, we were working in our pajamas, right? Okay, so we weren't doing things. We weren't interacting. We weren't enjoying each other. And so that had a profound impact. So we know that different things are going to impact our well-being, our belonging. And so we're going to start with family because that's where we start, right? We start within the bounds of a family, our family of origin. And so that's where we begin there. And so when we get back here to get to some notes, okay, just so I don't miss anything. So we think about what does our family do for us. They provide emotional support. They provide that sense of belonging. They provide a sense of security for us. And in that sense of belonging, it's that connectedness and keeping us from feeling lonely and isolated. Especially if you have a big family, obviously. That could make a big difference as well, right? When you're an only child, that's a little bit, you don't have as much for that. So, but if you have lots of, like the Currys have more than one, so it's a bigger family, okay? So it creates our personal identity. So think about within your family, that's where you learn who you are. That's where you learn your personal identity. You learn about the culture of your family and the shared experiences. You create memories. And those memories sustain us. Those memories are what keep us feeling connected and keep us feeling that sense of belonging. You know, as we're sitting here now, and I'm sure some of you, as I talk about memories, you do have memories that go way back from when you were a child. And those memories are the things that sustain you, that keep you connected. And make you feel like you have a sense of belonging with the people that are there. They provide a positive influence. They contribute to forming the healthy habits that you might have as well. And they also provide a positive influence for you, for the most part, right? So they're the ones that are cheerleading for you. Your family are the people that are on the sidelines when you're doing something good. They're there. They're supporting you. They're in the stands. They're cheering you on. And so they provide those positive influences. I have to show you the other side of that too, because that's a piece as well that we have to deal with. Is that sometimes these positive family relationships can provide that strong foundation, but what if it's a dysfunctional relationship? That may contribute as well, right? If things aren't good in a family, that's gonna create some mental health issues. It's gonna create our sense of well-being and belonging. It's gonna be shaken a little bit. And so we have to do things to help support that. And that might be our next topic of friendships that stand in the gap for that. When we think about friendships, they too provide a lot of emotional support for us. Sometimes, has anybody ever lived far away from your family? Okay. So if you live far away from your family, how do your friends impact you? They become like family, don't they? Sometimes you share holidays, you share all sorts of things, birthdays, you make a big deal, whatever those things are. So sometimes we choose family a little bit, don't we? And that comes through our friendships. They provide social connections for us. Just like when we were talking about earlier about the pandemic, we weren't able to gather with our friends. Our friends provide that social context for us that helps us to feel a sense of belonging again. Helps us to feel like, hey, these people care about me. They love me. They want to be here for me. And they show up for me. And so that's important as well. The friends and the way we develop those friendships throughout our lives as well. One of the things, anybody have any stress in your life ever? Okay. If you didn't raise your hand, I know you're not being honest, okay? We all have stress in our life, don't we? Okay? So,
it was too stressful.
It was too stressful to raise your hand. I got it. It's so great though, because thinking about how your friends can really help you reduce the stress in your life. I tell clients all the time, call up a friend and don't talk about out what it is that's stressing you out, just talk, just have a conversation. Somehow that stress just kind of goes away, doesn't it? It brings you down, it brings things down and puts things into perspective, and you're able to deal with things a lot better. Sometimes they're not as stressful as you think when you have that person to talk to. And so friends can be really, really helpful in reducing the stress that we have in our lives. And obviously, hopefully, they provide a lot of happiness for us. We love gathering. We love getting together for dinner, for meals, for just playing, for doing games, whatever it might look like. We really enjoy having those friendships that have a lot of meaning for us as well. And so all those together do help improve our mental health in a way that can be protective against things like the anxiety and the depression that we talked about. It also gives us a sense of purpose and meaning in life to have good friends. Some of us are blessed with lots and lots of friends, aren't we? Yeah. And others may say, hey, I just want a few friends. And that's okay too. It's whatever works. You know, wherever that deepening level. Some people have lots of deep relationships, and others, it's just a few. It doesn't matter. It's whatever works for you. The friendships are very important in helping us to grow and to develop and to find that sense of purpose in life. So it's more about the quality of the friendships than it is the quantity of the friendships. So we want those friendships to be something that contributes positively to our mental health in a way that they are supportive of us, they help us through the tough times. I can tell you in my own personal life, when I have gone through some really rough times, it's my friends that have stepped up, that have been there, that when I turned around, they were the ones standing there ready to give me a hug or ready to say, hey, I got you. And that has made all the difference in the world. Sometimes you need that even more than you need your family. Your family knows you too much, you know. So your friends can really stand there and say, and stand in the gap in that. So it's important to have those friendships and to know that we nurture those friendships, and we'll talk about that in a moment as well. So if someone's struggling with mental health, having supportive friendships can be a valuable resource. So we know that if we're having a really, really rough time, talking to a friend, having lunch with a friend, just gathering with a friend in some way can be really helpful to our mental health. And so I love this quote. Okay, I'm that friend. You know why? Because I'm bringing the chocolate. Come help me with it. I brought the chocolate. I'm that friend. Chocolate can just heal all kinds of things, right?
Unless you're diabetic.
Well, yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't even think about that.
I had a friend that opened these.
You did a friend that can open it, yeah.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I didn't even think about that. Yeah. So what's your
Yeah.
Carolyn, did you bring any sugar-free cookies?
I did not.
Okay, see, she didn't blame it all on me. But you want to have a good friend that's going to bring you some chocolate, okay? And if you don't have one, talk to me. I'll always bring chocolate. Okay. Let's talk about romantic partnerships as well. Obviously, these are very, very important, but these are very hard relationships too, aren't they? I'd love to tell you those always go really smooth, but they don't, do they? It's not easy living with somebody all the time. So, but they do provide emotional support for us. Again, it's that supportive nature of knowing that you belong to somebody, and that this will contribute to lower rates of anxiety and depression as well. When you have a good, stable, romantic relationship, that's the person that you're sharing life with. And so to be able to be with that person and to feel like that you're growing well together, that you're learning how to bond together, how to do life together. You're talking over the decisions that you make in life. You know, what's the important things, and having that person, that romantic relationship to do that with, provides a lot of happiness as well. Having someone to go through life with, to hold your hand, and to know that you're in this together. So we do know that people that are in healthy relationships, healthy romantic relationships, live longer. Okay, well, just makes sense, right? If we're happy, if we know that the other person has our back, if we know that they're holding our hand, they're walking through life with us, it just makes life a lot easier. And so, because you kind of have a shared concern of things, you're not bearing it all on your own shoulders. You have that other person that's there to bear some of that with you and to say, this should be a very safe relationship, a place where you can talk about anything. And you should be able to put anything on the table, and it should be a safe topic for you to discuss and to talk about what's going on in life, to share your hopes, your dreams for the future, to share your concerns, whatever that might look like, to know that I'm not in this by myself. I don't have to do this by myself. And so then it provides that extra layer of guarding against anxiety and depression, because it's like, I don't have to be anxious. I have this other person that's going to help me. They're going to help me figure it out. If I don't know how to get through it, they're going to help me figure it out. Okay? They're going to help me to know what the next step is. And so it provides personal growth. Usually, hopefully, you're doing this together. You're growing together. You're learning together. And you're trying to figure it all out together. So it becomes this growth process as well. Obviously, it's important to note that the quality of the relationship is what matters. If something were to be, some of those relationships, I hate to say the downside, but it's truthfully there. Some of those relationships can be toxic. Some of those can be unhealthy. And if they are, then we need to address those situations as well and learn how to communicate. So you've always heard, if you had any kind of, if you're married, if you had any kind of premarital counseling, any kind of notation at all, you heard about communication, right? Communication is the key. You gotta learn how to communicate. You gotta learn how to say the things that you need to say and how to let the other person know. I tell people, I do a lot of couples counseling. And one of the things I say all the time is, he cannot read your mind. She cannot read your mind. I've had people say, well, he should just know this is what I want. Or she should just have an idea that this is the way it should be done. None of us are mind readers. So that's something that I work on a lot with couples, is saying, look, none of us are mind readers. And so you can't expect me to know if I don't understand what's going on, if you don't communicate with me what your needs are, what your desires are, what your wants are, what your expectations are. And so we have to communicate. Communication is, then we have to be mutually respectful of one another. We can't talk down to one another. We can't act like that one has a higher level than the other. We have to communicate and have mutual respect for each other in the way that we handle things. And that cultivates a healthy relationship. So if we're able to communicate and that we're able to make those emotional connections and be respectful in that, then that's going to lead to a better relationship as well. So what about professional relationships? We spend so much time with the people we work with, don't we? I mean, it's crazy. I think about the people in this room. As I look across this room, quite a few of the people that are in here, I worked with for a long time at Gardner Webb. Jackie's back up here. Woo woo. But as I look, I see tons of people that I work with. And let me tell you, these people are what made it so great. Now I love the students at Gardner Webb, I did, but I loved coming to work because of these people that I got to spend the day with. And our relationships were so great. Our children grew up together. Lynn, our children were running around in Washburn Hall in the circle. And same thing with the others. We had lunches together. We laughed together. We did so much. We know about each other's family and what's going on. And that became like a second family. that becomes like a second family to you. And so those relationships are very important as well. The teamwork aspect, the ability to work together with somebody else and learning how to do that. I would say the work-life balance is one of those things that was created, that helped me, were some of these people that said, hey, you know, we're off work now, let's go do this, or let's do that, and let's leave it here. And helping me to understand about work-life balance. And I think that is so terribly hard right now because of the way we're working. It's hard, especially if, I know Jill works from home, and it's hard to have those boundaries, Jill, right? Like, when's the end of the day? You know, we have to have some of those boundaries. And even when you work in the office, I know I had to get on to Carmen a few times because Carmen was that one that, you know, we would all be walking out the door at 5 o'clock and Carmen was still going strong. I'd be like, Carmen, how long are you going to stay? And she'd say, oh, just another 30 minutes. And then the next day she'd say, I stayed till 8 o'clock. You know. So it's learning that, excuse me? Yeah, we're doing that now, aren't we? Yeah. So, but that work-life balance, learning how to do that, and learning that our families are important, and encouraging each other to have time for our families. It also provided that sense of community, where that belonging comes back in. Okay, that was our community, and so I felt like I belonged in that community of the people that I worked with. I felt like that they loved me, I loved them, I cared about them, and they gave me that sense of belonging. Especially after my kids grew up and my kids were no longer at home and I was at home by myself. And so I loved going to work every day so I could see all these people that could help me through that time. Obviously, if you enjoy your job, I said when I was working at Gardner-Webb that I wanted to do it as long as I got up every morning and I still looked forward to going. And when I didn't want to do it anymore. Now that wasn't exactly why I'm not there now. I just had better opportunities, but I had a lot of job satisfaction, okay? I enjoyed the people I worked with. I enjoyed what I did. It provided a social network for me. It gave me a place to belong and to feel like there were other people around me that cared about me. And also, it's always great to have some kinds of recognition when you're in some kind of work atmosphere. We love those professional relationships. So, obviously, again, on the back side of that, if there's adverse situations there, you want to take care of that as well. So we want to nurture those relationships. Now, one relationship that I didn't put up here, but that I think is very, very important and has been an extremely important piece of my life is my church family. That becomes like family too. You know, they're the people that see me a lot too, and that I have known. I happen to have been at my church my entire life. I have been at other churches, but I've never been a member anywhere else. And so, but these people have known me my whole entire life, some of them. And so that had been my family. They're people that I can confide in. So your church family is a huge piece of that too, that sense of belonging. And that we got away from that during COVID a little bit too. But we want to nurture those relationships and to nurture the positive relationships by using the open communication, mutual respect, and the collaborative mindset. And so we want to invest in that as well. So if I summarize this a little bit, it's talking about investing time and effort in nurturing any type of relationship that can have long-lasting positive effects. And so I want to tell you a little story. Just so happened chance, I don't know if any of you are news watchers, but I watch the news at Ryan a lot of times. And so last night, anybody familiar with Steve Hartman on CBS? He does little stories. Don't you love these stories? He always makes me cry. Yes, so great. He does a Friday night, on the news on Friday nights, and he always does some kind of human interest story. So last night the story was, and I thought, thank you, God. He just laid this in my lap. It's a beautiful story to tell you today. And I thought, this is so great. There was an older gentleman, and he had been in a war, and had come back home, and he had PTSD. So we're all familiar with PTSD. He was struggling from that, but his wife, he was in a relationship. He'd been married for quite a long time, and he was dealing with the PTSD during that time, and it was all good. But his wife passed away, and so the PTSD became became a little more intense. And so what he realized then was, I gotta do something. I gotta do something about this. So what he did is he put an ad on, or he put a little note on Facebook that said, if anybody needs any honey-do list things done, give me a call. Those things. So right away, he started getting phone calls. And so it showed him, he was putting on closet doors for a young woman. He was fixing a gate that went to a pool for another woman. Another lady said that he hung her screen door. And then they said, well, how much did he charge you? And every one of them went, $0. He didn't charge anything. All he wanted was, when he walked away, he took a picture with the person. And it showed all of his pictures laid out. And he said, now look at all my friends. Look at all these people that are my friends. There's lots of takeaways in that story. But one of the big ones that was, yes, he has the friends now that are creating that sense of belonging for him. They're creating those attachments. But he also recognized that he needed to do something. Nobody could do it for him. I can't fix you. I can't fix you. I can't fix you. We have to do it for ourselves. Okay? So the recognition that he was sinking in the PTSD. And he was like, I don't like this. I don't want to do it. So what he did was said, okay, what can I do? And so now he's called the honey-do lister, I think was his little title. And he goes around to, and he said it's mostly single women, widows, people that don't have that person at home that can do those things. And he just finds the joy every day. And he said in the piece, he loved getting up in the mornings. He loved going and doing these things because it brought him great joy. It brought him a sense of purpose, a sense of being with someone and doing something nice for someone. And so he took that and said, I'm going to do it for myself. And that was my takeaway in that, is that I have to realize when I need to look at these things in my life and when I need to say, I need to do something about it. So when we think about showing up in relationships, I want you to think for a minute. How do you want to show up in the relationships in your life? How do you want to show up to your family? How do you want to show up for that? How do you want to show up for your friends? I had a client this week that she was kind of depressed, and she was sitting on my couch and she said, well, I just, I have some friends, but they haven't called me to do anything. And I said, well, have you called them? She looked at me and I said, why can't you call them? Why are you waiting? And why don't you take the initiative? Maybe they're sitting at home going, why don't she call me? Okay? So how are you showing up in those friendships? How are you showing up to your romantic partner? How are you showing up in those relationships that are important? How are you showing up at work? So I want you to think about it. I want you to take that away now as thinking about, how do you show up in the relationships that are meaningful to you? How do you show up at church, if we include that one too? I'm trying to get church in as much as I can because my pastor's here, so. Just kidding. But how do you show up at church? How do you do that too? So think about all the relationships that you have in your life and how those are important to you. And I hope they are. I hope you have many relationships that are important. I hope you have many places where you feel like you belong. Because at the end of the day, God created us to be creatures of relationships. We crave that. We really do. God put that in us to crave that sense of relationship. And so I wish for all of you that you have great relationships, that you nurture those relationships, and you figure out ways that you can connect in a very meaningful and powerful way for yourself. So, thank you. So we're going to do a couple of door prizes. So yay, everyone get excited. I want you to your seat. I'm going to draw for